Assalamualaikum rahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Uh, uh, Anyone here? Uh, okay, I'll wait till a few people join, inshallah. Mm. Okay, so there are two viewers right now. By the way, thank you for guys for joining. I'm sorry I actually planned on showing myself on camera, but unfortunately my lighting was terrible and I had to make sure. By the way, let me know, can you guys hear me? Is everything okay? Can you guys hear me on the chat? Oh, okay. Walaikum assalam. Tunisian hacker, uh, uh, Zabek. Thank you, brothers, for joining in. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. Thank you guys for joining. So before, by the way, this is my first time doing this. So again, apologies for the black screen. I actually wanted to, like I said before, I wanted to show myself on the camera, but the lighting was terrible. So I figured I would just do it this way. So basically, what I'm going to do is first I'm going to talk about offensive jihad a little bit. I feel like we have to talk about what happened in France. It is. I feel like it's unavoidable at this point. So we're going to talk about whether that what happened with Assalamualaikum, Walaikum Assalam, Taib Karman. So yeah, we're going to talk about first what happened in France, whether it was justified or not Islamically, and whether vigilante justice is allowed. And then we're going to move on to talk about France. So as you can see, and then I'm going to react to Emmanuel Macron's response to what he said about our prophet. So yeah, maybe I should wait a bit, see if more people joins or not. Meanwhile, how are you guys doing? Let me know. 8 people watching right now. Yes, bro, random Muslim. This is live. I'm doing live. This is my first time doing it, by the way. So if I make any mistake, do forgive me. So, okay. So let's wait a little bit so more people can join. Brother Adi Faisal, Assalamualaikum. How are you? Thank you for joining me. By the way, how many of you are from the Discord? Let me know. Okay. All right. Well, I think we should probably just get started. We have 10 people now. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you guys for joining. Okay, so random Muslim commented. He said that I'm doing okay, could be doing better. Can't wait for the next part of the evolution series. Yes, inshallah, the evolution series is coming. I've been working on so many videos. I hadn't had a time to work on those videos, but inshallah, I'll get to them. We'll get to those videos. My next video will probably be a response to Badr Yafi says salam. Walaikum salam, bro. How are you? So yeah, as I was saying, my next response to would probably be on rationality rules. I figured he made a video on evolution, which I thought was quite bad. So I'm going to respond to that. So let me know, by the way, guys, should I get started or should we wait for more people? Let me know. Let's see who else is here. Okay. Okay. So, guys, should I get started? Uh, yes, you are right. Commented. He said that, bro, there is a channel called FTD Facts. You should use that channel's technique. I don't know, bro. I mean, I'm not like, it kind of reminds me of kind of like those BuzzFeed videos. I don't know about that. Kind of like a top 10 random things, I don't really do that type of videos, but thanks for the suggestion, though. Uh, Brother Random Muslim said, you can start and then check questions later at the end, right? Or somewhere in middle of it doesn't bother you. Yes, I'm actually planning on doing a Q&A. Inshallah, I'll give you guys the link so you can join me live here. But I'm still waiting because I'm actually supposed to start a little bit later. But some of the brothers were saying, the brothers who live in Bangladesh were saying that it's kind of late here. So I wanted to start early in case people don't fall asleep. But by the way, let me know where are you guys from. Let me know which country you're from, so I can at what time it is over there. Many of the Bengali brothers can't join, unfortunately, probably because it's pretty late. Make brother, yes, you're right. Said make a video 10 misconception about Quran. Inshallah, I will. I've been planning on making so many videos, but I just hadn't had the time. Inshallah, I'll get to some videos. I mean, I haven't even begun making videos on why Prophet Muhammad SAW is the is the last prophet of God. That's a video I've been meaning to make for so long, but I wanted to get to all the nonsense that uh, you know the Islamophobes throw out there. I want there to be absolutely no arguments that they can bring that I haven't already touched upon. Inshallah. So yeah, that's my plan. But inshallah, I'll touch upon some of the other type of videos as well. Brother Tunisian hacker said he's from Tunisia. Alhamdulillah. So another Zobaz, he said he's from. Hold on, he's from UK. Mashallah, what time is it over there? By the way, let me know. Mother Muhammad Rain Raza says, I really appreciate your videos about Hinduism because Hindus talk so much about us Muslims, but we don't really respond to them. Yes, I agree. It's something that happens so often. By the way, people who doesn't live in the subcontinent doesn't understand how much attack we get from Hindus. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So yeah, I feel like it is very necessary that we talk about Hinduism. It's a huge major world religion, and the religion is extremely complex. And there's not enough people talking about it. Zakir Naik talks about it, but he's not, with all due respect, he's not very in depth. There's a great website, by the way, guys, check it out. It's called, it's by Brother Sulaiman Rizvi. It's called Vetka Bed. Definitely check it out. Brother Taib Karmin says he's watching me from Netherlands. Alhamdulillah, that's pretty far away actually. It's he said that it's 8:40 p.m. over there. Thank you for joining me, bro. Brother Yafi said that I think a very important one is prophecy of Prophet Muhammad SAW. Yes, I agree. Inshallah, I plan to make a very lengthy series on this, going through all the arguments and showing why it is absolutely concrete that he was a prophet of God, and there's absolutely no denying on this. And I'm gonna, inshallah, bring prophecies that. Yeah, I'm gonna, inshallah, bring prophecies that are undeniable. So yeah, brother Adi Faisal says that he's watching me from India. Mashallah. By the way, how's the weather in India? Let me know. It's pretty cold here. Um, so, guys, should I get started, or should we wait a little bit more? Let me know. Oh, brother Tanvir Hassan asked for the link in the description. Which link? Are you talking about the Vedka bed? Oh, hold on. Let me share it with you guys. Okay, bro Tanvir, I actually shared the link to Ved Kaved and the stream in the chat. You can check it out definitely. It's a very good website. I think it's one of the best. Brother Sultan Rahi says, "Are you going to make more videos about Quran history?" Inshallah, I will. I made a few videos with brothers from the Muslim Election Hunter, but unfortunately, I don't know what happened to brother Abu Musa and the other ones. They have been completely missing from the online dawah scene, unfortunately. So yeah, brother, yes, you're right. Says that soon you will reach 2.5 subscribers. Inshallah. We'll see. Inshallah, hopefully. Uh, Brother Tanvir Hassan Jasun says, "Thanks, bro. Thank you. You're welcome." By the way, there's actually multiple websites that have come out that are critiquing Hinduism. So it's not the only one, but I think it's the best. Like they do the most, like they even go into like the refutations of this arguments. So that's very good because we need more of that. Brother Taib Kariman says, make refutation videos or Quran preservation videos. Yes, inshallah, I will. I've planned on making a video on Zay Smith, but Brother Farid is destroying him completely. And that other guy, I don't know, I forget his name. So I haven't touched on this topic yet. And it's a topic that I feel like I need to do more research on. But I will make videos on preservation, inshallah, don't worry. So yeah. Okay, so guys, let me know. Should I get started? Or should we wait a little bit more? I think it's almost time. I mean, I wanted to start at 2. Brother, yes, you're right, says we need more popular apologetic website. Yes, we do. We definitely do. By the way, I will make a video on the best apologetic websites or YouTube channels, inshallah, in the future. Some of those are in answering Christianity and let me turn the table. But I think answering Christianity has some problems, but we'll talk about that later on. Brother Muhammad Rain Reza says, can you refute Ben Gibson? Ben Gibson? Who's Ben Gibson? Do you mean like Dan Gibson? Dan Gibson has been refuted like crazy. Like there's so many refutation to him. Check out there's a website, Islamic Awareness. They have so many refutations on this Quran preservation, and they have like all the academic refutations you need in terms of history and stuff like that. So definitely check that website out. That website I think is run by brother Mansur Ahmed from Speaker's Corner and brother Adnan Rashid. So yeah, definitely check it out. Brother Abdikar Abdullahi. By the way, I apologize if I'm butchering the name. Love from Somalia. Alhamdulillah, bro. Mashallah. Thank you. Love to Somalia as well. I would love to visit there sometimes. Let me know how things are in Somalia. How are things over there? Yeah, Muhammad Rainer says, yeah, sorry, Dan Gibson. Yeah, no worries, bro. Okay, so brother Yafi says that I should probably get started. So yeah, I think it's time. We should get started probably. Let's not waste any time. Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So thank you guys for joining me. So I wanted to make this reaction to the response that Emmanuel Macron said regarding why he decided to not ban the pictures of the Prophet. But before that, I wanted to make some observations and talked about certain hadith. And I wanted to discuss, I wanted to discuss with you guys. You know what? Let me ask you guys a question. By the way, brother Yasir Zahir says, can you make more vids on Dharma Speaks, please? Yes, inshallah, I will. But for now, my plate is kind of full. So, yeah. By the way, guys, definitely, I put my my Patreon link in the description. Definitely check it out if you guys want to support the channel, or if you can, even if you can't, that's fine too. But if you can, you can help me out on the channel if you want. So yeah, I guess we should probably get started. Brother Tanvir says macaroni. Yeah, yeah. His name, I don't know who named him, by the way. Like Emmanuel Macron, who names their child this name? I mean, he probably got bullied a lot. Who knows? Anyway. So yeah, let's get started. So by the way, let me ask you guys a question. Do you guys think that what happened to Samuel Paty? By the way, let me bring up an article. Brother Muhammad Rain Reza says that. Rain Reza says that he doesn't want to see Macron's face. Unfortunately, we have to see his face because I want to make a refutations to him. So, yeah, just bear with me. Trust me, we're going to expose him very thoroughly. Brother Charles Age says macaronis are delicious. By the way, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted with the comments, but we should probably get started. Okay, so before we react to this video, let's take a look at an article that talks about the death of Samuel Paty. Okay, so this is an article from DW. Hold on, let me share the screen with you guys. Chrome tab. Okay. Okay, share. Okay, so as you guys can see, hold on, let me just make it bigger, a little bigger. So this is an article. By the way, DW, I don't know which website it is from, but it is from this website. I think it's German. But anyway, so here's the title. As France mourns slain teacher Samuel Paty, some questions secular values. The article goes, a week after the murder of history teacher Samuel Paty, many in France have been championing the country's fierce secular values, but some say that the long-held belief is fueling division and extremism. Now, this is an interesting take because you don't actually see there's actually a debate as to the so-called secular values of France. Now, there's one thing you need to understand. This guy, this Samuel Paty, he had trouble with the authorities, basically, because a lot of Muslim parents complained about him. And the thing is that the situation was kind of resolved. So, but the thing is that after he died at the hands of a Muslim, he almost immediately became a celebrity. Like that just seemed like something that just immediately happened. But anyway, I don't know who this is. Hold on. Sabna Khanam says that it seems everything is fair in love, war, and Islam. I don't know what you mean by that. If you can articulate, that would be helpful. But anyway, so yeah, the reason I brought up this this article is because I wanted to ask you guys: do you guys think that what happened to Samuel Paty was right? Let me know. Give me your answer in the chat. I need to ask you guys this question before I proceed. Do you guys think that what happened to Samuel Paty was justified from an Islamic perspective? That's the question I want to ask. Because there's a lot of divided opinions on this. And before I get started, I just need to know what you guys think of this. So, Brother Muslim Warrior has joined us. Walaikum salam, bro. Thank you for joining us. By the way, I love your videos. Keep fighting the good fight, bro. So yeah. Ronozo says, Muslim Warrior. Yeah, he's here actually. I love his videos. Thank you for joining me. A lot of brothers are answering. They're saying, no, it wasn't right. And I agree to some degree, but it's a little complex. And I'm going to explain how. So, Brother Muslim Warrior said that he loves my videos as well. Mashallah, thank you. That means a lot, actually. So maybe we should collab in the future, or maybe you can come on live right now once I'm finished with the presentation, inshallah. So, yeah. So the thing with vigilante justice is that there is certain rules when it comes to offensive jihad. And we need to understand something, which is that offensive jihad doesn't just happen between civilian to civilian. Okay, it's just something that doesn't happen. When the scholars talk about offensive jihad, it's usually the caliph waging jihad against another, say, a military group or something like that. So, and we find evidence of this from multiple hadith and tafsir and fiqh perspective. And so this is not my opinion. And by the way, Brother Tanveer Azan Jasun says, not really. Even if punishment could administrate it, it would have to be from caliphate, not vigilante. I agree. And vigilante justice is not really justified. Now, I want to share you guys news with you guys, and this is very unfortunate. So I don't know if you guys heard of Mozambique. Mozambique is a Muslim country. It's a very small Muslim country, and something very, very tragic happened over there. So I don't know if you guys know, but in Mozambique, hold on, let me share an article with you. By the way, when you guys read about terrorism in Western media, do not trust a word they say. These Western media journals are very, very biased. So always keep that in mind. So always keep that in mind, but do not discard that information either. But yeah, so I'm going to share an article with you guys. It's from, let me share the screen with you. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let me make it bigger. By the way, the reason I'm talking about this is because I saw Armin Nawawi talking about this. Obviously, ex-Muslims will take advantage of this, of news like this. And even Western media also takes advantage of news like this. And when you see news like this, especially headlines like this, do not trust a word. Because let me tell you something. When you, especially, and this is especially true in media, media makes news to make money. That's the whole goal. However, that doesn't mean that you distrust the information. So, for example, here in BBC, this BBC article says a militant Islamist behead more than 50 in Mozambique. And I read the article, and they don't list a reason for any of it. Like, they're saying that these Muslim terrorists have come to Mozambique and they've killed all these people, but it's as if like they had no reasoning for it. Now, obviously, what happened is tragic, and this is not justified in Islamic Sharia in any way, shape, or form. But you need to understand something. These people are already biased on Muslims and Islam. So the way they write is as if like these people just suddenly decided to become terrorists, and that's it. But that's not what happened. And I'm going to share with you guys something. So here in the last line, if you read, they said human rights groups say Mozambican security forces have also carried human rights abuses, including arbitrary arrest, torture, and killing during operation to curb the insurgency. Now, what does that mean? That means that the government of Mozambique themselves are dictators. Okay, they are torturing and oppressing their own civilians. So, and it's interesting because they put this information at the very, very end. Why is that? I mean, is this not an important information? I mean, this gives context to a lot of the context that happened. So basically what happened is that you have this government that is extremely oppressive, and then you have certain youth, Muslim youth, that are feeling emotional, and they've been brainwashed by the ISIS propaganda, and they went out and killed a bunch of people. That's what happened. And they did it in a very brutal way. So this is now news. This is now news, and Muslims are, they're like Muslims, Muslim terrorists have struck again, and all this nonsense that you see from Western media. So, and this is the thing you guys need to understand. And this is why I'm talking about this. First of all, this type of attack is not allowed in Islam. Okay, you cannot kill Muslims, period. There's no justification for killing Muslims. As a matter of fact, there's no justification for killing civilians. Now, let me share a few hadith with you guys so you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, hold on. By the way, brother Imam Changas is joining us. Alhamdulillah, bro. Thank you for joining. By the way, let me share this hadith. Let me share this hadith with you guys. Okay, here we go. Tab. Okay, so let's take a look at this hadith, and I think it's important for us to read this together. Okay, so in this hadith, Abu Huraira, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that Sa'd bin Ubada, Allah be pleased with him, said, the Messenger of Allah, and he basically, as Sahabi, asked Prophet ﷺ a question. He said, Messenger of Allah, if I were to find with my wife a man, should I not touch him before bringing 4 witnesses? Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, yes. He said, yes. He said, by no means by him. So basically he's saying that, can I hurt the person that is sleeping with my wife? That's basically what he's asking the Prophet ﷺ. And he responded by saying that, no, basically he's saying that, can I hurt the man who's been sleeping with my wife? And the Prophet said that, no, you cannot. So basically he said that, if I find my wife sleeping with another person, can I touch him? Should I not touch him? That's what he said. I'm sorry. Again, that's what he said. Should I not touch him? And the Prophet ﷺ said that, yes, you shouldn't touch him. Then he said, by no means, by him who has sent you with the truth, I would hasten with my sword to him before that. So he became angry and he said that, no, if this happened, then I will definitely kill that person. But Prophet ﷺ said that, listen to what your chief says. He is jealous of his honor. I am more jealous than he, and God is more jealous than he. So what does that mean? That means that when it comes to Sharia law, you cannot just do whatever you want. Okay, you have to listen to a leader. That doesn't mean blind obedience, obviously. But when it comes to Sharia law, you have to listen to your scholars. You have to listen to the Prophet. You can't just carry out Sharia punishment on your own. It doesn't work like that. You cannot go around beheading people. Now, this is in Muslim countries, but now the justification for some of these attacks is that this is offensive jihad, but this is not how offensive jihad works either. Again, let me share a hadith with you guys so this becomes clear. Okay, so here it goes. Let me share the screen with you. Okay, so let's read this hadith, and I think this will clear a lot of the confusion that this, this Kharijis or terrorists, whatever you want to call them, don't understand. So Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, three types of people are most hated by Allah, the Almighty. Whoever kills another in the sacred area of Haram sanctuary, whoever kills anyone other than the one who killed him, meaning hurt him, or whoever kills anyone in revenge, as in times of Jahiliyyah, and this is related by Ibn Hibban. Now, this hadith is from Balag al-Maram. By the way, this hadith is Sahih, and I will give you guys the links to the hadith after the stream ends. Inshallah, in the pinned comment, so you guys can check it out. This is a authentic hadith, by the way. So from this hadith, it becomes clear that you cannot hurt people unless there is a reason for it. Okay, you cannot hurt someone unless there is a reason for it. This is very important when it comes to Sharia law, or hudud punishment, or offensive jihad. So again, you can't just go around kill random people. There has to be a reason for it. Like that person has to hurt you or has to do something. It can't just be that they're drawing a cartoon or insulting the Prophet or whatever. First, there has to be an Islamic authority there. And secondly, the person that you're going to punish, that person has to do something against the government or the authority or whatever. So it's not the case that you can just go out and hurt other people. It doesn't work like that. And this becomes even clearer in the next hadith that I'm going to quote. And this is very, very important. So pay attention to this. Let me share the screen with you. Hold on. Okay, Book of Jihad here. Okay, so this is in the Book of Jihad. So we know it's talking about offensive jihad. Okay, so if you look at this hadith, it is talking about offensive jihad. So this is not like some hadith about the government, the Islamic government. This is directly talking about how we should behave in offensive jihad towards our enemies. So this is what the hadith says. It has been narrated on the authority of Ibn Umar that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when Allah will gather together on the day of judgment all the earlier and later generations of mankind, a flag will be raised to mark off every person guilty of breach of faith. And it will be announced that this is the perfidy of so-and-so and so-and-so, to attract the attention of people to his guilt. So what does that mean? It means that when someone will be guilty of breaching someone's trust, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will humiliate that person on the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will humiliate that person on the day of judgment. Now, this is a serious matter. You cannot betray someone's trust, especially when it comes to enemies of Islam. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw this movie called Kingdom of Heaven. In that movie, there's a scene where where Salahuddin Al-Ayyubi walks into your church, and they see that he sees that a cross has been put down, and he basically puts up the cross back in its place. So now, why did Salahuddin Al-Ayyubi do this? He did this because back then, Islamic leaders, when they would do offensive jihad, they had such an honor code that people would respect them immediately, even if they're their enemies. And this is something you have to understand. When it comes to the early caliphate, even if you read the life of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu or Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, they were such honorable people. They would never, not in a million years, would betray the trust of their enemies. They would not attack their enemies in a place without like letting them know or doing something treacherous. And doing something treacherous in warfare is not encouraged in Islam, and it's not even allowed in Islam. And let me show you more evidence for this. There's another hadith, and let me share this with you. Let me hold on. By the way, I don't know why the screen is so short. Okay. So if you look at this hadith, yeah, if you look at the chapter heading, it says the prohibition of betrayal. Now, again, this is in the book of jihad. Remember, this is talking about jihad. Now, what does it say? It is narrated on the authority of Abu Sa'id that the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "On the day of judgment, there will be a flag fixed behind the buttocks of every person guilty of breach of faith." Let me read that again. On the day of judgment, there will be a flag fixed behind the buttocks of every person guilty of breach of faith, which means you cannot break treaty with your enemy. Like if you have a treaty with your enemy or some kind of trust with your enemy or some kind of faith, like some kind of, I don't know, covenant or something like that, you cannot break that treaty. And we see evidence of this from the life of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, where there's a hadith in Abu Dawud that, hold on, let me share with you guys. Okay, so if you read this hadith, here Prophet ﷺ says that when they were fighting, they found a few dead civilians, and the Prophet ﷺ, again, this is in the book of Jihad, regarding calling idolaters to Islam. Sulaiman bin Buraida reported on his father's authority, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Fight in the name of Allah and in the path of Allah with him who disbelieves in Allah, but fight and do not be treacherous." Do not be treacherous. Now, this is very important. What did he mean by that? He means that if you have a treaty or some type of agreement with your enemy, you cannot break that agreement. Okay, and then he said that do not be dishonest about booty, and do not deface in killing, and do not kill a child. And we know that in Islam that it is not allowed for Muslims to kill civilians or people who doesn't fight us, right? Again, I'm not talking about defensive jihad. This is offensive jihad. There are certain rules when it comes to offensive jihad. One of them is that you cannot kill women and children. And another one is that you cannot break a treaty or some kind of agreement that you have with your enemies. Brother Halal Mehdi Muhammad says that, but isn't a great jihad is word spoken to an unjust ruler? Yes, absolutely. But the thing is that you have to speak the truth in front of an unjust ruler. And now, that doesn't mean that offensive jihad against by the way, I'm not saying that fighting a unjust ruler is not permitted or anything like that, but the thing is that there are a lot of conditions that has to apply before something like I don't know, like but like in general, betraying your leader is not something that is allowed as far as I know. But there are conditions where you can do that. Like if your leader tells you to do something that's un-Islamic, like kill innocent people or something like that, then in this case, again, I'm not an expert. Like you guys should probably check in with a scholar. But the thing is, there are a lot of conditions that has to be applied. Like if it's like a Muslim leader or something like that, then there are certain conditions that applies. But again, I'm not an expert on this, so I have to probably look into this. But yes, you're right. The greatest jihad is to speak the truth in front of an unjust ruler. So, which means that if a leader is not leading by the example of the Sunnah of the Prophet, then you have to speak out against them. However, I'm talking about offensive jihad, which is different from like civil war or things like that. So, yeah. And so, yeah, as you can see, the Prophet makes it very, very clear that for us to not be treacherous when it comes to offensive jihad, which means we cannot break our treaty or break our bond with our enemies. So yeah, there's another hadith, and I'm going to end with this. Then I'm going to start talking about France, and I'm going to react to Macron. So, and this hadith can be found in Tirmidhi. Hold on, let me share the screen with you guys. Okay, so this hadith takes place when Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. Okay, so this hadith takes place. By the way, in the chat, I see that a lot of people are like fighting for, I don't know, what are you guys arguing about? By the way, please don't argue about things that are not related to the topic. Try not to talk about. I think it's something about like TRT versus like Al Jazeera or something like that. By the way, when it comes to news report, I'm not saying that just because a news source comes from the enemies, that it's necessarily false. There's some elements of truth in it. But what I'm saying is that be careful when you take information, because know that these are human beings and there is heavy bias. Okay? So yeah, guys, please stop fighting in the chat. But I'm gonna let me read this hadith. So you can read this hadith in Jami al-Tirmidhi 1580. So narrated by Abu al-Faith, I heard Sulaim bin Omar said there was a treaty between Muawiyah radiallahu anhu and the people of Rome. He was making an expedition into their land so that when the period of the treaty was to expire, he would attack them. So when a man upon an animal or upon a horse said, Allahu Akbar, fulfillment, not betrayal, and it turned out to be Amr ibn Abash, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu asked him about that. And he said, I heard the Messenger of Allah said, whoever has a treaty between himself and a people, then let him not violate that treaty, nor try to change it until its time has passed, or in retribution or similar offense. He said, so Muawiyah returned with the people. You can read about this in Jami al-Tirmidhi 1580. So that means that when it comes to our enemies, in offensive jihad, you cannot break your treaty with your enemy. This is very, very important. You cannot break your treaty with your enemy. You have to obey. If you have a treaty with your enemy or some kind of covenant with the kafir, then you cannot break the treaty. And why am I saying this? So all this attack that you see from the Kharijites or terrorists, most of these attacks are not based on Islam because they're breaking the treaty. They're committing a form of treachery, right? Because if you live in a country, then you have a a treaty with the government that you cannot break that rule. You cannot break the rule and just randomly kill people. It doesn't work like that. From an Islamic perspective, if you're going to do offensive jihad, even in offensive jihad, forget defensive, even in offensive jihad, you have to respect the law of the land. You cannot just go randomly killing people. However, that doesn't mean you stay quiet. Obviously, you refute them intellectually. And the thing is that what happened with Samuel Paty is that that guy was that guy probably didn't even know what Islam was. So what the guy who killed him did was absolutely wrong, because what he should have done is that he should have called him to Islam. He should have given him dawah. Because remember, the whole purpose of offensive jihad is to spread Islam, right? So how can we spread Islam if you're, instead of giving dawah, you're killing people, right? It doesn't work like that. And so this is something we need to understand, that when it comes to offensive jihad, there is a place of offensive jihad. By the way, I'm not saying that like Muslim leaders cannot attack non-Muslims or anything like that. I'm not like being like those moderate Muslims or moderate imams or anything like that. Not at all. But what I'm saying is that when it comes to offensive jihad, there are certain rules, and one of them is that you cannot break the treaty. And most of these terrorist attacks, what unfortunately happens is that they break most of the Sharia laws. And that's why most of them are not successful. Because if you remember, back in the day, most of the offensive jihad that happened, Muslims won most of them. Almost majority of them were won by Muslims. And how did that happen? Because, they were doing things based on an honor code. They didn't just randomly went out and kill civilians. Because if you kill civilians, that actually helps the enemies. It doesn't help the Muslims. Because the enemies can then use that as a propaganda against the Muslims. So, and we have to remember that we have to be angry that the fact that the Kafirs are insulting our Prophet, but our warfare have to be limited to intellectualism. We have to intellectually refute them. Now that's with the whole like terrorist attack. What happened was wrong. Now let's move on to Mr. Emmanuel Macron. Now we will finally talk about this piece of, I don't want to badmouth him yet. So let me share the screen. Let's see what he has to say. And by the way, let me know if you guys can hear the audio. Hold on. Okay, so I'm gonna react to what Emmanuel Macron said in an interview. He tried to respond to the arguments that the Muslims are making. So yeah, let's take a look. By the way, let me know if you guys can hear the audio.
Good morning, President. Thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
This interview took place, by the way, on Al Jazeera. So yeah, let's take a look.
In a school and then in Nice, in a church. The Muslim world is following you, and you yourself are closely following the Muslim world. What can you say to the Muslim world today?
Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez dire au monde musulman aujourd'hui? Merci d'être là et vous avez raison de rappeler.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming. And you are right that our country has been struck 3 times by terrorist attacks carried out by extremists, violent extremists, who in distorting and deforming Islam have committed acts which have deeply shocked and wounded the people of France to the core.
Avec des actes qui ont véritablement sidéré et blessé le peuple français.
The decapitation of a teacher because he was teaching freely.
By the way, did you notice how he started talking? Immediately in the beginning, he cherry picks the victims. He cherry picks the victims. Basically, he says that the French people are harmed by this. The French people are hurt by this. By the way, some of you guys are saying the sound is low. Can you guys hear me properly? Hello. Can you guys hear me properly? Oh yeah, I'm turning it on fast forward. By the way, if you guys want to hear the slow version, that's fine too. So yeah, as I was saying, so if you hear what Emmanuel Macron is saying, is that the French people are hurt by this. Now, my question is he suggesting that Muslims are not hurt by this? That Muslims are okay with this? Like what type, like the way, this is the way these people are, the frames the question, that he immediately says that only French people are hurt by this. But what about the Muslims around the world? Is he suggesting that we're not hurt by this? When a terrorist attack happens, does that not affect us? So, yeah, and anyway, so this is the way they frame the question. But anyway, let's continue. Let's see what he has to say.
And then in Nice, this Thursday, in a church, the Basilica of Our Lady, the decapitation of 2 people and the stabbing of a 3rd. France is still reeling from the shock of these 2 terrorist attacks and is at one and the same time feeling sadness, unity, and anger. And for the first time, when we experienced these events, there were very strong international relations amounting to attacks on France and a lot of misunderstanding, which is why I want to dispel them. Things I saw on your social networks and on your channel.
By the way, did you guys hear what he said? He said, you know, these Muslims, you know, they're going around attacking us. What is this? You know, this savage Muslims, what are they doing going around attacking France, you know? By the way, in case you notice, he's acting as if like Muslims are attacking France out of nothing. Like, he doesn't understand that the reason Muslims are angry with him is not necessarily just because of the cartoon, right? I mean, most of the Muslims, if you ask them, it's not just that he put up a cartoon or that, you know, he allowed the cartoon of the Prophet to happen. There are so many things that are happening in France that our Muslims are angry about. Muslim women in France are not allowed to wear the burqa. Muslims are not allowed to teach Islam without the approval of French government. Like, the French government is shutting down mosque. Muslims cannot practice Islam the way they want to in France. These are all things that the Muslims are angry about. It's not just about cartoons. And this is, by the way, a complete straw man argument of the Muslims. Muslims are not angry just because of the cartoon. Of course, the cartoon hurts us, but it's so much bigger than just the cartoon. Like, your government has insulted us for over a decade, and it actually goes worse than this. But I'm gonna get to that. But let's hear what else he has to say. Brother Halal Mehdi Mohammed says that France sounds like China. Yeah, actually, they kind of does, but China is actually far worse than that. But anyway, let's continue. Let's see what else he has to say.
So I thought this way I could dispel a lot of these misunderstandings. If you will allow me, though, my first words will be addressed to the French whose faith is essentially Catholic, because they've been very deeply wounded, and I would like to convey to them all the support and protection of the Republic. Just a few minutes ago, I was in touch with the Pope in order to convey that to
Oh,
him
yes,
too.
the Catholics.
Then, in a broader sense, I would like to say that France is a country that is committed to freedom of worship and what is often called secularism. A complex term which...
So, in case, did you guys notice something? He's talking about the Catholics, right? He's saying that because of the Nice attack, what happened was that a Muslim went and attacked a church, right? But that's not the only thing that happened. A few days ago, just before that attack, 2 Muslim women were stabbed, right? Again, let me hold on. Let me just share the article with you guys, so you guys can see. Okay, so if you guys see the article, it says that 2 French women charged over racist stabbing of veiled Muslims. racist stabbing of veiled Muslims. And Macron said nothing about this. He's completely silent on this. So what happened, Macron? Like what? Like these two women who were stabbed. Why aren't you saying that Muslims are upset because of this incident? Like, so what? Like only when Christians are attacked, and that's the only thing that needs to be mentioned. What about the Muslims? Like, and this is why the Muslims are so mad with this guy, and he still doesn't understand. Like Muslims are angry at so many things that the French government is doing, and this is really unfortunate because again, like this news was only published because it went viral on social media. Like if it didn't went viral on social media, they would never publish this. And then this guy's only highlighting again here. He's commenting the cherry picking fallacy. He is only highlighting when the criminals are Muslim, but he's completely ignoring when the victims are Muslims, right? He never mentioned this in the whole interview. He completely ignored this. The fact that Muslims have been attacked over and over again in France. But regardless, and you know, this is complete hypocrisy. I mean, if he really cared about his you know, citizens, this is one of the first things he would do. He wouldn't just condemn attacks on Catholics or Christians. He would obviously condemn now, like everyone, especially attacks on Muslims as well. But he completely ignored that in this interview because, and remember, I saw this whole interview. He never brought it up once. But anyway, so yeah, let's continue and see what else he has to say.
Which has given rise to many misunderstandings, which I hope that I can attempt to dispel today. There is, it should be recalled, freedom to believe or not to believe, which makes of France a country in which we would like each and every one to be a citizen, irrespective of his or her religion. One where everyone, irrespective of their religion, has the same political and civic rights, and a society in which people of all faiths can live and where these faiths can be practiced. This is very important. Transcendence has a place in our societies, but the state must guarantee that right to everyone. I want to say that, contrary to what I've heard a great deal during the last couple of days, our country is one which has no problem with any religion in the world because they can all be practiced here freely. And as far as French Muslims are concerned, and indeed all Muslim citizens throughout the world, I want to say to them that France is a country where this religion is practiced freely and where there is no stigmatization.
Really? No stigmatization? No stigmatization. Did you guys see the article that I just shared? 2 Muslim women were stabbed. Is that not stigmatization? Like Muslims constantly face Islamophobic attacks in France. Hold on, let me just show you guys an article or a research paper or something. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me just share this article with you guys. Okay. So the title of the article says, by the way, this is from AA.com. I'm not sure which journal this is, but anyway. So the article says France Islamophobia replacing anti-Semitism. So basically, according to many academics and scholars, they're saying that experts are saying that Muslims are taking the place of the Jewish community in France of scapegoat for the country's problems. So basically what's happening is that every problem in France is now being blamed on the Muslims. And this is not a new problem. This has been happening for a couple of years now. So let's read the article a little bit. France's Islamophobic behavior as it grapples with the economic fallout caused by the novel coronavirus. Novel coronavirus pandemic is similar to the widespread anti-Semitism of Jewish people at the onset of World War II, according to analysts in Turkey. The identification of Islam and Muslims' image with terrorism, along with the attacks on the Twin Towers on September 11, 2001, in the US, increased Islamophobia in France as it did all over the world. Another key event that helped trigger the rise of Islamophobia in France was the 2005 riots, when the accidental death of North African youths who fled police carrying out ID checks ignited the police protest in the country that went on for 3 weeks. Then obviously the Charlie Hebdo attack happened. And basically what the article says is that there has been multiple attacks and hate crimes against the Muslims. And again, Macron completely ignored this incidents. And according to one of the quotation that they use, they said that the article said that Jayden Benep Dondru, I don't know how to pronounce this, Dondru stressed that the action taken against Muslims since the year 2000s were in essence very similar to the anti-Semitism of World War II. And I think he's like some kind of a academic, I think maybe. But anyway, so he said that instead of Jews, this time Muslims are seen as the responsible for the economic problems of the country and as elements that damage French national identity. This ideology is intended to restrict freedom of worship and assembly of Islamic communities. This shows that when Universal Declaration of Rights of Human Rights of the Citizens was signed in 1789, the basic rights of life, freedom, security, and resistance to oppression defended by the country only applied to its citizens with French identity. So basically, many academics, what they're saying is that France, Islamophobia in France have increased a great deal. So this is not the case that there is no, there is no hate crime in France. And I mean, like Macron is saying as if like nothing's happening in France. It's all good and dandy. But that's not the case. Hate crime have increased in France, and he's completely ignoring it. But regardless, let's continue and let's see what else he has to say. Okay. Someone's saying that they cannot hear it. Hold on. Sorry about that. Share audio, Chrome tab. Okay. You guys should be able to hear it now.
Taken into consideration.
Can you guys hear it now?
Well, you are coming back to that again, and this immediately brings us to one of the misunderstandings that have surfaced in recent weeks. A misunderstanding or origin of much manipulation that is, if you'll allow me, sometimes very serious.
By the way, can you guys hear the sound?
The issue of the caricatures is not...
Can you guys hear the sound? Sound of the video? Okay. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, let's continue.
Not a new subject. Let me remind you that for more than 15 years now, there have been terrible polemics with Denmark as well, and with the support of France at the time, and today it's with France itself. Our country has its own history, and this history consists of having built a public identity through, in some senses, withdrawing it from religion. This is what is often termed secularism, because first and foremost, France has experienced...
By the way, this is not the academic definition of secularism is. Secularism is simply the separation of church and state. That doesn't mean that religion plays no part in the society. It simply means that there's a separation between church and state. By the way, this guy is supposed to be a president, but he doesn't seem to understand what secularism even is. But anyway, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but let's continue.
The history with the Catholic religion. And we've elaborated our laws, which are the fruit of the spirit of the Enlightenment. Our laws are the emanation of the French people, a sovereign people, and our laws enshrine the rights and freedoms of each and every one. The freedom of worship, which I've referred to, a freedom that we defend and which is practiced in our country, but also the freedom of conscience and free speech. This means that in our country, France, any journalist may freely express himself about the President of the Republic, the government, the political majority or minority, or the rest of the world. And that idea of free speech also contains the freedom,
no. No. Hold on, let me go back.
France, any journalist may freely express himself about the President of the Republic, the government, the political majority or the freedom of worship, which I've referred to, a freedom that we defend and which is practiced in our country, but also the freedom of conscience and free speech.
Okay, so here he's saying that freedom of speech is, is running rampant in France. Freedom of speech is everywhere, which is complete bogus. Okay, let me show you guys some evidence of how Macron used police on peaceful protesters to beat up protesters. Okay, now these protesters have done nothing wrong. They were simply protesting because Macron is a complete failure when it comes to economy. Like, a lot of people are losing jobs in France. So some of these people, I think it was the movement was named the Yellow Vest Protest. If you guys want, definitely check it out. And the Yellow Vest protest, what happened here is that there was a huge protest in France against Macron's government. And Macron's government completely broke down on these people, like on his own people, by the way. And there were like horrific pictures and videos of this. Let me share a video with you guys where the French police attacked civilians indiscriminately. Like, some of the civilians were bleeding heavily. So hold on, let me just share the video with you guys. Okay, hold on. Let me just share the video with you guys. From tab. Let me know if you guys can hear it. Okay, hold on. Now, this happened during the Yellow Vest protest. The news says, this is a video, that the police pushed back against the 50,000 person crowd, often escalating into violence, including tear gas, pepper spray, batons, and flash grenades. In previous weeks, they used rubber bullets and water cannons. And some of the protesters were heavily injured. Now, let's take a look at how France practiced freedom of speech, how Macron practiced freedom of speech. Let's take a look.
Mr. Macron is not an honest president. It's a pity. So it's the president of the rich, and he forget all the poor people.
Wow, so much freedom of speech there, guys. By the way, this is not some Middle Eastern country somewhere. This is France. This is happening in France. I mean, this happened in France. These are French citizens who were protesting, and Macron's police thugs attacked them indiscriminately. And they did nothing wrong. They were simply protesting. And he attacked them, and and some of the protesters were heavily injured. Here, look at this. Okay, so I think you guys get the point. By the way, someone asked me a question. What is your view on democracy? I can't comment on that, honestly. I haven't looked into it, but inshallah, if I do, I'll let you guys know. But anyway, so as you guys can see, Macron used tear gas and police thugs against peaceful protesters. Does this look like he cares about freedom of speech? No. He doesn't give a shit, okay? Let's be real here. So when he says that he cares, in France you have freedom of speech, it's complete nonsense. Okay? It doesn't... and by the way, in case you guys don't know why the Yellow Vest protest happened, let me share another video with you guys. Hold on. Let me share the screen. Share audio. Okay. Again, let me know if you guys can hear the audio. This is from TRT World. And this basically describes what's behind the Yellow Vest protest.
Known as the president of the rich, Emmanuel Macron likes to give his presidency a touch of royalty. But the French are now using the very same rhetoric to protest against their young president, whose popularity seems to be going up in flames. Graffiti like "Macron is Louis XVI" and "We cut off heads for less than this" was seen in the streets across France as weeks of protest shook the European nation. Thousands of people joined the movement known as Gilets jaunes or Yellow Vests to protest Macron's rising fuel taxes and the country's worsening economic conditions that have impacted the lives of low-income people. The 40-year-old president argues that these austerity measures are necessary to help reduce the country's reliance on fossil fuels. The people on the streets have a different opinion. They say he just doesn't understand their concerns.
Venez voir trois visages, monsieur Macron. J'ai pas besoin de vous pour voir les gens. Parce que vous allez le faire pour faire de la com. Je continue à voir les gens.
It's been just over a year since Emmanuel Macron took office, but more than half of the country has lost confidence in him. And the people weren't happy with Macron even before he became president. After all, he served as finance minister for one of the most unpopular presidents in French history, and he attracted plenty of controversies in his first year as president.
Okay, so by the way, this is quite funny. So these guys actually asked him a question about, I sent my resume everywhere. I cannot find a job because apparently in France, getting a job is becoming tougher and tougher, if I'm not mistaken, and the economic condition is getting worse and worse. And what's interesting is that this Yellow Vest protest was very huge, and it was something that very big. But after the terrorist attack happened, it's like almost the media completely forgot about it. Like what was happening with the Yellow Vest protest. Like no one is talking about it. I mean, like, it's like it like completely disappeared, which is absurd. So you can clearly see Macron has realized that from an economic perspective, he cannot win the people over. People are angry at him. So he has to distract the people with some kind of rhetoric. So he's borrowing a rhetoric from the right-wing people, and he's blaming all the problem of France on the Muslims. Obviously, he's not saying it directly, but he's saying, hey, look at this terrorist. It's kind of like a red herring. Look at this terrorist. These are the problems. Don't forget about your economic conditions. Forget about the fact that, you can get a job. Forget about all that. Just focus on the Muslims. And that's basically what happened. And this is the guy, by the way, who's lecturing everyone that he cares about free speech. He doesn't, because if he did, he wouldn't use tear gas on his own people and make his own people bleed. So anyway, so let's continue with his nonsense. By the way, I'm not gonna prolong the video too much. There's a certain aspect that I wanted to touch on, which is his war crimes, which inshallah I will get to, I think, in this segment. So yeah, let's continue.
This means that in our country, France,
by the way, let me know if you guys can hear me.
Express himself about the president of the republic, the government, the political majority or minority, or the rest of the world. And that idea of free speech also contains the freedom, the possibility of drawing caricatures. That is our right, and it comes from way back, from the end of the 19th century. It is important to defend it because it belongs to the French people, and we are in our own sovereign country. This right has led to there being newspaper caricatures, which we have a history of. And these cartoons have mocked political leaders, your humble servant being the first in line, which is perfectly normal, as well as religion, all religions. So when we talk about caricatures, I want you to know that many newspapers, including Charlie Hebdo, because there's been a lot of talk about that one, have mainly caricatured the Christian God, the Jewish religion, rabbis, etc.
Yes, and they're all wrong. You shouldn't insult other people's religion.
And today, and for some years now, we've seen cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad or of the Muslim religion. I understand the feelings that this gives rise to. I respect them. But I need you to understand what my role is. My role is to calm things down, which is what I'm doing here. But it is also to protect these rights. And there is an important difference here, which all Muslims who might have been shocked have.
Oh, sorry. Let's continue.
Have to understand. The issue is not about whether France and its representative in the figure of the president draws these cartoons or supports them as such. That is not the issue, because the press is free. There are not official newspapers. The French government did not draw these caricatures.
By the way, if you notice that he's committing a fallacy here, he's committing the fallacy of false equivalence. He's equivocating the fact that these people are drawing cartoons and mocking people, which is hate speech, and then equivocating that with free speech. They're not the same thing. These are two completely different things. Mocking someone is a very particular type of speech, especially when it comes to provocation. What he's doing is he's trying to equivocate between free speech and hate speech. They're not the same thing. So here he committed the false equivalence fallacy, but regardless, let's continue.
The issue is about knowing whether the president agrees to prohibit these rights. The answer is no, because it is a right of the French people and it affects everybody. So what is important for me is to protect that freedom. I also want everything to be done with each and every person being respected. This freedom is very important.
Yeah, but the problem is when these same people protested against you, you used the cops to attack them. So why is it okay for you to attack when people protest against you, but not okay for you to ban cartoons of the Prophet? Right? I mean, this is a complete contradiction. Like, you're saying that you're being inconsistent. Like, he's being completely inconsistent. He's saying that he will allow cartoons of the Prophet because he cares about freedom of speech. But when it came to the Yellow Vest protest, many of the protesters protested against him and did so peacefully, and yet he used police to attack the protesters. So what? Like, these protesters were not part of free speech? I mean, you're saying that you care about free speech, and yet you're attacking your own people for using free speech. So clearly, you don't care about free speech. You don't care about when French people use it, and you also don't care about when Muslims use it. You only care about when other people use free speech to mock Islam. That's only when you care about free speech. But the moment French people revolt against you, free speech stops right there. But regardless, let's continue.
So much of what has been said during these last weeks about caricatures, we can condemn them, and that is right, as well as many other things that are done, and also in other countries which are committed to free speech. I find it perfectly normal that people react and say that they don't agree, but there are two different things here that I cannot accept. The first is the confusion which has been maintained by much of the media and sometimes also by political and religious leaders, which consists in saying that these caricatures are in some sense the project or the emanation of the French government or the President of the Republic. No, I'm here to preserve this right, and I shall always do so. And there are people who exercise it. That's how it is. And the second thing that I cannot condone is people's justification, either directly or indirectly, of any the confusion which has been maintained by much of the media and sometimes also by political and religious leaders, which consists in saying that these caricatures are in some sense the project or the emanation of the French government or the President of the Republic. No, I'm here to preserve this.
I don't. Okay, so check this out. Look at what he's saying. By the way, some of the brothers said that I need to speak from a distance. Unfortunately, I can't do that because my mic is not very good. Like, if I speak from a distance, it won't pick up, unfortunately. So, but anyway, so as I was saying, here he's saying that, his job is simply to protect the people's rights, and which is, one of them is that free speech, that people are able to say what they want. But the problem is you don't care about what people say, because you used cops to attack your own citizens when they said when they protested against you. So again, and not just that, like, if you say that you're not against the Prophet's cartoon being, drawn, then why are you allowing it? Is this not hypocrisy? I mean, you can't say that you respect the Muslims' feelings and care about, and don't believe that the Prophet Muhammad should be mocked, and then say that, yeah, but I'm also going to allow other people to mock the Muslims, the Prophet of the Muslims. It doesn't work like that. So, so he's contradicting himself again. But regardless, let's continue.
This right, and I shall always do so. And there are people who exercise it. That's how it is. And the second thing that I cannot condone is people's justification, either directly or indirectly, of any form of violence. I'm not a specialist in theology, but it is not my understanding that Islam legitimizes or supports resorting to violence of any kind. So while I understand and respect the fact that people might be shocked by these caricatures, I will never accept that physical violence is justified because of them. And I shall always defend freedom of speech in my country, the freedom to write, to think, and to draw. This does not mean, however, that I personally support everything which is said, thought, or drawn. It simply means that these freedoms, these human rights,
then you are a hypocrite. Like, you can't say that I'm going to allow murder, but I don't support murder. It doesn't work like that. Either you support murder or you don't. If you support murder, then you're going to allow murder. But if you don't support murder, you're going to make sure that murder doesn't happen in your country. Okay, if you can't say that you don't support murder, then allow murder to take place in your country. It doesn't work like that.
rights which have been created in France, I believe that is our duty to protect them, and thus to protect the sovereignty of the people of France.
Monsieur le Président, moi je vous transmets des...
President, I am conveying to you questions which are occasionally asked in the Arab and Muslim world, and which are based on statements made by yourself. In the speech you made in homage to the teacher Mr. Samuel Paty, who was assassinated, you said, and I quote, "We will not give up the right to make caricatures or drawings, even if others may back down. The resolve is clearly based on freedom of speech, but it was off the cuff, and it's seen by some people as being defiant, rather than taking the feelings of Muslims into consideration. How do we assess this?"
Alors, je viens de vous l'expliquer.
Well, I've just explained it. First of all, there have been a number of misunderstandings about the sentence you have just quoted, and thank you for having quoted it literally. The translations which have been made by a lot of the media in the Arab world and which I have seen on social networks contain a lie. A lie. I was understood to have said that I support the humiliating caricatures made of the Prophet.
You do.
I never said any such thing. Firstly, because these same caricatures, and this is important for all Muslims who are listening to us, are about all religions, all of them. There are no caricatures that are specifically against one religion rather than another one. And in addition to this, all leaders are implied. The second thing I said is that I was protecting their right because that is my role. And I also believe that in our society, we must accept and accomplish respect for one another. But as President of the Republic, it is not up to me to water down that right because some people might be shocked. That is what I want you to understand. Because if I were to do so, I would be setting up a sort of moral or religious order in my own country. If I were to say to the people that right...
You already have a moral or religious order in your country. Like, again, like, these people don't understand that secularism itself is a religion. Like, then why is it, like, the thing is that in France, you cannot disrespect the French flag. I mean, how is this not religious? Like, this is completely dogmatic and religious. I mean, he's saying that, you know, he cares about free speech. He's just trying to protect the rights of other people and free speech. But then again, he's gonna not allow anyone to mock the French flag. How's that consistent? But regardless, let's continue.
Writing or drawing, that they don't have the right to say things like that because it shocks other people, then little by little, freedom of speech would be reduced because it would become a space in which we would not actually speak about one another.
Okay, here he's committing the fallacy of slippery slope fallacy. So basically, if in case you guys don't know, the slippery slope fallacy is when you basically make an argument and you go from one premise to another premise, then completely jump ship to another one. It's like saying, you know, if you go outside, you will get the coronavirus. If you get the coronavirus, then you will infect everyone in the world. I mean, in this case, it's actually true. But imagine if I said this, right? If you go outside or if you sleep in your bed, then you might not have a trouble waking up tomorrow at 7 p.m. If you're not up tomorrow at 7 p.m., then you will miss your breakfast. If you miss your breakfast, you'll become sick. If you become sick, then you will die, right? So one premise is going from completely another premise, and then it's going to absurd limits, right? And that's basically what he's doing. He's saying that if you don't allow free speech in certain aspects, like when it comes to religion, that automatically means that means no one will be able to say anything at all, which is absurd. This is not true at all. Just because in a society you're limiting certain types of speech does not mean that this will then result into no one being able to say anything at all. There are plenty of laws in France that doesn't allow people to mock, Jews or black people. So why is that okay? But it's not. It's completely okay. Why is that wrong? But why is it completely okay to mock the Prophet of Islam? Again, this is hypocrisy. Do I even need to say anymore? But regardless, let's continue.
Herein lies the whole difficulty of this project, which is collectively ours. And I believe that it derives from the project of the Enlightenment and the values which
the
we hold dear.
Enlightenment.
It is not just a question of coexisting side by side. It is also a question
By the way,
of accepting that we can pass comment.
Enlightenment figures are like their prophets, the prophets of the liberal religion. So I just want to point that out. But regardless, because they'll say this constantly, that the Enlightenment. The moment someone criticizes their ideas, they'll constantly shove out this trump card, as if they say the word enlightenment like 10 times, it's gonna immediately refute all the arguments that are coming against them. But regardless, let's continue.
On one another calmly and with the kind of respect that I believe in, and occasionally be able to mock one another, irrespective of what our religion or philosophy might be, and to accept that it be done within a framework that implies both respect and peace.
Thank you, brother. Red icon.
Sentence you quoted, I think that the reaction of the Muslim world was first and foremost due to numerous lies, to the distortions I referred to, and to the fact that people were...
let me say with the trouble, it was not. Muslims are genuinely angry at the French government. And not just the Muslims, the French people themselves are angry at the French government, as we have seen with the Yellow Vest protest. But regardless, let's continue.
Led to believe that I'm in favor of these caricatures. To these people, I say that this is not the issue. I'm in favor of people being able to write, think, and draw freely in my country because I think that it is important and that is their right and freedom. I understand that it can hurt, and I respect that. But we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it.
By the way, did you notice what he said? He's going to contradict himself in just a few minutes. He said that we have to be able to talk about controversial things. He's going to contradict himself in a few minutes. Watch.
Have to build a space of respect and mutual comprehension. So I believe that the solution lies not in prohibiting this right, and even less so in trying to justify violence of any sort as a result of being shocked.
Pour les caricatures, bien sûr, ce sujet qui reste toujours...
For some, this is obviously something that is in all the headlines. Muslims oppose any kind of caricatures, be they of Moses, Jesus, the Virgin Mary, but they point out that it's all too easy to publish or republish the drawings and cartoons of Muhammad, of Islam, or of the Prophet. A repetition which implies that it is easier to caricature the Prophet of Islam than to caricature the others.
Non, je vous l'ai dit, d'abord c'est faux.
First of all, in factual terms, that is incorrect, and it is historically incorrect too. The Catholics in France have sometimes been very shocked by what they've seen. And I know that Jews have been too, and so this is something that we have to discuss. You know, when it affects you personally, I'm not talking about caricatures of religion, but people can, you might not like it, but disliking something or being shocked by it does not justify violence. I do not accept the idea that there is a kind of stigmatization. No.
By the way, this is a straw man argument. No one is saying just because you're shocked, that's why these attacks are justified. Or at least I'm not making that argument. And most of the Muslim scholars or the Muslims who are upset about the cartoon are saying that either. What they're saying is that when you put the cartoon of the Prophet in buildings, it's almost impossible for the Muslims to miss them. So you're deliberately doing this to provoke the Muslims. This is hate speech. This is not freedom of speech anymore. So you're deliberately doing this to, provoke the Muslims. And then you're saying that, but I don't yeah, I have no, no qualms with the Muslims and blah blah blah, then don't let people draw cartoons of the Prophet in buildings. Regardless, let's continue.
That is not right. I would also like to stress the fact that free speech is something much broader than mere cartoons, but they're part of it. So there. I think that it would be a mistake to fall into a
Yeah, I
kind
agree,
of chain
brother Limited.
reaction of provocation. I wanted to set the record straight for you. First of all, there is history. These drawings were done in France, and France is not under Islamic law. France is under the law of the sovereign French people. It is the law they decide on. And more specifically, these laws come down to us from the 19th century.
Yeah, you're right.
Who am I
Actually,
to
I
say
think.
that
Wait,
because a
hold on.
particular
Let me
religion
just
has an
let me
issue?
just pause this. I saw that as well. Like there were two dislike from the beginning of the video. I think I know who it is. This is Armin Nawawi. I know he subscribed to my channel. The moment he saw this thumbnail, because he's a simp for. I know he's watching, by the way. He's a simp for. He constantly defends Macron like crazy. He's a Macron fanboy. By the way, if you're watching this, your boy Macron is gonna get exposed in this live stream. So keep watching, please. I beg you. But regardless, let's continue.
With such and such a representation or word, I should ban it? I cannot do that. And I do not think that it is my duty to do so. So what I want and this is my message, is that together I want to remove the falsehoods and the ambiguities, and I want to say to all the Muslims of the world that in your countries there are things that certain religions do not necessarily like, perhaps including some French nationals. But do they attack you because they don't like it, because they are shocked? No.
Actually, they do. French has been attacking Muslims for years, like thousands of years. And again, this is a topic that I'm going to discuss, and I'm going to discuss how France is still killing Muslims overseas, especially in Syria and Iraq. Some of the attacks that the Muslims have done in civilian targets. These are things that needs to be discussed, but I'm not going to discuss right now because he's going to say something incredibly stupid in a few minutes, and then I'm going to expose him here. Anyway, let's continue.
Have to learn how to get to know one another and understand where our laws and customs come from. But there is nothing in these caricatures, in this freedom of speech, which is done against a particular religion, whichever it is, and specifically not against Islam. That is very important.
By the way, it's not Epos.
Whereas in many countries,
I think this is Armin Nawawi
and
that I don't know what that girl she has, like her name is Susanna. I think they both subscribe to my channel, and every video that I see, they dislike the videos. So anyway, but anyway, let's continue.
That I note with sadness, freedom of speech has declined over the decades. Why? Because there have been
again,
fear.
If you notice, he's again committing the fallacy of false equivalence. He's equivocating freedom of speech with hate speech, which is drawing cartoons and insulting people. Again, they're not the same thing. But regardless, let's continue.
And the chaos created by reaction.
So basically what he's trying to do is that he's trying to make it seem like hate speech and free speech are the same thing. And he's trying to pass off hate speech as free speech, as if like it's the only part of free speech that matters. When in reality, some academics would argue that hate speech is not part of free speech even. And in many countries, hate speech is condemned, especially in countries like UK and even in France to some degree. But again, we're going to discuss this later. Let's continue.
We see is a kind of shrinking of this freedom to draw, to discuss, sometimes to provoke. And I believe that this is grievous for the freedom of everyone. So you must believe that I, your humble servant, for as long as I am president of the French Republic, will respect all the citizens of France, as well as all the citizens of the world, irrespective of what their religion is. I'm committed to that respect. But I want you to understand what the exercise of this freedom is in France and in other countries. Another mark of my respect is to treat Muslims like people of all other religions. I'm trying to establish the kind of respect that can accept humor and differences. While it is true that at times some things can shock people, that does not mean that one should prohibit or reduce them. We should be able to talk about them.
Okay, so here he's saying that just because something shocks you doesn't mean it should be prohibited. Okay, then can I say the N-word in America or in France? Can I wipe my butt with the French flag or burn the French flag? No. So, because the French people find these things shocking. And if this is the case, that just because something is shocking doesn't mean that it should be prohibited, then why are these things prohibited in France? Why can't I burn the French flag in France? Why can't I desecrate it? Again, he's contradicting himself. This is completely inconsistent. So they pick and choose when freedom of speech applies and when it doesn't apply. This is not liberal or free. This is not a free society. This is authoritarian. This is totalitarian. This is fascism.
Often when people talk about Islam in France, Muslims cite anti-Semitism. They say,
Here we go.
why
This is
are
the
there
one I wanted to
laws
talk about.
which penalize anti-Semitism? Why are there debates which close off certain historical facts, revisionisms, for example, which are ring-fenced by French law?
Oui.
Yes, I can confirm that.
Is it not possible to have a law that would protect their holy symbols?
Alors,
You're confusing two things here. History, the mutual respect of different peoples, and religion. France is fighting anti-Semitism and racism in all their forms. And anti-Semitism as such is an attack and hatred against a people, in fact against all peoples. Anti-Semitism and racism in France are...
By the way, did you notice how he he flipped the table immediately? Didn't he just say that people should be people should be able to talk about controversial things? Now he's saying that no, actually, you shouldn't be racist. So what happened to what you just said? Didn't you just say that people should be allowed to talk about controversial things? So which one is it? Should people be allowed to talk about controversial things, or should racism not be allowed? Or should controversial things be allowed or not? Like he's saying, he's constantly contradicting himself. But anyway, let's continue.
are fought against and prohibited by law. But it's not just a case of anti-Semitism. That would be wrong. It is forms of racism. But in the same way, as we are saying just now, in France, one has the right to do caricatures and to criticize the Jewish religion, like all religions. So there is no double standard or double statute. It would be wrong to say that. Wrong. There is indeed a law in France which penalizes historical revisionism, because many people build their anti-Semitism on a denial of the Shoah. That is a fact. But in France, we do not question historical fact. We do not go searching in other countries for a denial of such and such a genocide or teach a...
Wait, okay. This is a huge fallacy. Here he's committing the, what do you call it? Appeal to authority fallacy. So basically he's saying that certain authorities says that this is historical fact, therefore we have to accept it. And therefore anyone who brings any kind of evidence or argument against it have to be rejected. Now, first of all, what makes you think that these authorities are correct in the first place? This is circular reasoning. This argument is completely circular. You cannot be saying that, this is a historical fact that, this Holocaust denial, Holocaust happened. But if you don't allow people to bring their arguments, then how would you know that this is the case? I mean, shouldn't you allow people to at least bring their arguments? And if you're not going to let them do that, then why are you saying that free speech is allowed or you're championing free speech? Clearly you're not. Again, remember what he said? He said that people should be allowed to be discussing controversial ideas. And now he's saying that, no, you cannot talk about Holocaust denial. Again, this is a complete contradiction. Regardless, let's continue.
Not in France. We recognize things as they are. including, moreover, the crimes we ourselves have committed. Let me remind you that 25 years ago, Jacques Chirac acknowledged the responsibility of the French state during World War II, and we've even acknowledged what was done in the name of slavery and colonialization. So France looks at its true history in the face. But we are...
Oh, okay. So he's saying that it's okay for us to do that because, you know, we're admitting that we were assholes in the past. You know, so it's okay. No, it's not okay. Just because you're admitting that you were assholes in the past does not mean that it's okay for you to, stop people from saying things that you don't like. I mean, you just said that free speech is a virtue in your country. And again, you're saying that no, actually, no one can deny the Holocaust. Again, this is complete contradiction. Like, anyway, let's continue.
Understand that others look at it too, and we try to avoid hatred being fed through a revised and falsely corrected history. You have to remember that it is not the government that writes history, that is the job of historians. All forms of racism and anti-Semitism.
How will historians write history if you don't let them talk about Holocaust denial? What? Anyway, let's continue.
Or fought against in France by law, which of course...
By the way, I just want to say something. I don't believe that Holocaust never happened or anything like that. Obviously it happened, but my point is that you can't stop people from... You can't say that we stand for free speech, and this is not just my argument. A lot of people are saying the same thing. And then say we're not going to allow anyone to believe that Holocaust never happened. This is a complete contradiction. That there's no way around this. But regardless, let's continue.
Mean that they do not exist. They do. And they are a terrible scourge. And we struggle with them. I have asked the government to do even more. Right from the beginning of my term of office, as indeed was the case with my predecessors, whatever their political persuasion, I have fought against it. Mainly because a lot of violent acts have been committed against the Jews in France during recent years. But there have also been acts carried out in the name of racism, which are unacceptable. We fight against all of them, all of these acts in the same way. There is, as I said, the possibility of criticizing religions, and people carry out acts against certain religions. With regard to this, and I hope that I'm making myself crystal clear here, I want us to be intractable. However, these days in France, there are people who commit acts against Muslims because they are Muslims, against Catholics because they are Catholics, against Protestants because they are Protestants, against Jews because they are Jews, and so on. So I instructed the Minister of the Interior to entrust a parliamentarian with responsibility of identifying, following through, and building transparency with regard to all acts committed on religious grounds against our fellow citizens on French territory.
Après les critiques qu'on a...
In the wake of the criticism that France has undergone over the last weeks, there ensued a boycott campaign. What is your reaction to that?
Elle est indigne et je la condamne.
It is outrageous and I condemn it. It is being done by certain private groups.
I'm sorry, hold on. Why is it outrageous? Why is it outrageous? I mean, Muslim boycotting your product, that's free speech. Why is that outrageous? Didn't you just say free speech is something that is cherished in France? And now you're saying that actually, you know what the Muslims are doing is outrageous? So you're saying that free speech is outrageous? So which one is it? Is free speech a value you uphold? Or is it outrageous? It cannot be both. This is a complete contradiction. Again, like this guy can't stop contradicting himself. Anyway, let's continue.
Because they haven't understood, because they relied on falsehoods and caricatures, sometimes from other leaders. It is unacceptable. You have to understand what is happening on the issue of the cartoons. Because in France, which is a sovereign country, I decide that the right, the law endorsed by the sovereign people should be applied, and that I should then try to calm things down. But I say that I'm not going to renege on this right, because that would be unconstitutional and
yeah, bro, actually I have to
because people confuse
do wudu for Fajr in a few hours.
I consider to be unassailable. They start attacking a state. As I said to many other leaders, in France the press is free. In many of the countries calling for a boycott, there is no longer any free press, which means that there
By
is
the way,
no longer
bro,
any
how are things in
possibility of
Turkey?
drawing
Let me know.
caricatures, not only of the Prophet Muhammad or God or Moses or Jesus or anyone, but even of the leaders of their own countries. Cartoons of foreign leaders are sometimes drawn, but not the ones of the leaders of the country they live in, because they have crushed
Wait,
the
wait,
hands
wait,
of the
hold on.
cartoonists.
Let me just go back. I
Because
missed
sometimes
something.
you get any possibility of drawing caricatures, not only of the Prophet Muhammad or God or Moses or Jesus or anyone, but even of the leaders of their own countries. Cartoons of foreign leaders are sometimes drawn, but not the ones of the leaders of the country they live in, because they have crushed the hands of the cartoonists. Because
Okay. So look at what he's saying. He's saying that because these Muslim countries do not allow their politicians to be mocked, therefore there is no criticism in these Muslim countries, which is complete bollocks. So basically, he's committing the non sequitur fallacy here. He's saying that if uh, Muslims don't allow cartoons to be drawn of religious figures, that will lead to not drawing cartoons of the political leaders, which is completely fallacious because it doesn't follow. Just because you're not allowing freedom of speech in certain respect does not mean you don't allow freedom of speech, period. Okay? Criticizing political leaders is completely allowed in Islam. There's nothing in Islam that says that you cannot criticize political leaders. As a matter of fact, it's a virtue, right? The righteous jihad, one of the brothers actually was mentioning it, is criticizing your oppressive leaders, right? This is the biggest form of jihad. So this is completely allowed in Islam. So we're not saying that you cannot criticize political leaders. What we're saying is that when it comes to religion, insulting someone's religion is hate speech, and hate speech leads to violence against those religious minorities. Therefore, it's wrong. That's what we're saying. But regardless, let's continue.
sometimes they have killed the journalists or because they've put them behind bars. This is not the case in France.
By the way,
when a newspaper
criticizing your leaders, by the way, you can do that without drawing cartoons. He's acting as if like the only way to criticize leaders is to draw cartoons, which is another fallacy known as the fallacy of composition. He's taking one aspect of mocking and equivocating that with with free speech and criticism. You can criticize someone without mocking them, period. The two things are not related. But anyway, let's continue.
in France says something, it is not the position of the government to decide on a boycott of a country, of a people, because something has been written in a newspaper in our country is insane. Or it is just a case of transposing what happens in certain other countries, but not here or in the free world. Because the words of a journalist are not the mouthpiece of propaganda. We don't have any more of that in France, I'm pleased to say.
Do you fear that there will be repercussions on French people
Yeah,
abroad,
I agree,
on
actually.
French companies abroad?
But the
Je pense que tous les dirigeants
I think that all political and religious leaders who do not categorically and roundly condemn any form of violence against France, which is a country of freedom and enlightenment, should bear a certain responsibility, direct or sometimes indirect, with regard to violence committed against French people in France or abroad. That is why the message of appeasement that I wanted to convey today is also a message calling for responsibility. During these last days, I've seen too many people saying unacceptable things about France, corroborating all the lies which have been said about us or what I am supposed to have said, being the tacit accomplices of the worst. You know, I want you to understand.
By the way, I just want to make something clear. When we criticize Macron, we are not against the people of France. Many people of France hate Macron. Okay, let's get something clear. Many people in France hate Macron, and they're fed up with him. Our anger is not with the French people. Our anger is with the French government, and especially with Macron, because he allowed our prophet to be mocked. By the way, Prophet Muhammad is his prophet as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him for him as well, because remember, Jesus was not a prophet for the Gentiles. He was a prophet for the Jews, right? He came for a certain period, but Prophet ﷺ came for everyone. So he's actually insulting his own prophet. And that is absolutely wrong. But anyway, let's continue.
Understand what we're trying to do in France. For some years now, we've been fiercely combating terrorism. It has cost the lives of more than 300 of our fellow citizens
Okay, here we
and
go.
sometimes of foreigners living here. This terrorism carried out in the name of Islam is a scourge for the Muslims of the entire world. You were saying the same thing yourself just now. You know, when you look at the authoritative figures on the subject as of today, if you take the last 40 years, more than 80% of the victims of this terrorism are Muslims.
Yes, that's true. But what does that has anything to do with, you allowing the Prophet's cartoon to be drawn? Nothing. So he's trying to use a red herring fallacy. He's trying to shift the attention to something else. But anyway, let's continue.
When young girls are abducted in Nigeria by groups in the name of Islam, they and their families are the victims. When a maternity hospital is bombed, when... I could quote you dozens of examples where
By the way, France itself has bombed hospitals, but again, I will get to that.
terrorism in the name of Islam claims mainly the lives of Muslims. We are fighting this terrorism because it strikes us here on our own soil. And then there's a second category that I've decided to combat. There have been many misunderstandings about this because there have been problems of translation. It's what we call in France radical Islamism. What does this mean? These are violent extremists who distort religion and who commit violence in the name of Islam. And this fight that I've been waging has been translated as my fight against Islam. No, on the contrary, France is a country where the religion of several million of our fellow citizens is Islam. I'm not going to fight them. They are fully fledged citizens and they want to live in peace. And we have friendly countries everywhere whose main religion is Islam. But today, in the name of Islam and thus distorting it, violent extremists are carrying out the worst acts. And they are not terrorists. What are they up to then? They take children out of school, they indoctrinate them, and they just...
Okay. You noticed that he just said that people should be allowed to say what they want, to talk about controversial ideas. And now he's saying that Muslims cannot teach their children ideas that are opposed to us. Like what? So which one is it? Should free speech or talking about controversial ideas should be allowed or not? Like you can't say that we're going to allow people to talk about controversial things, but then say that but we're not going to allow Muslims to teach their children about Islam. Regardless, let's continue.
justify violence. They are active on our territory in France and linked with groups abroad. And so what we've been very forcibly grappling with for the last 3 years is trying to reduce their grip, to protect our people and by the same token
the poor
protect
French
the Muslim
people.
French, because they stealthily feed into a feeling which is harmful to them, friendship between religions. And this is down to misunderstanding. And so what I reaffirmed during the Demuro speech I gave at the beginning of October was my determination through a bill of law which is in the pipeline, which was dubbed separatist, but I removed the ambiguity there. It is a bill of law to combat the violent extremist groups and individuals who are active in France in the name of Islam. It is designed to protect all French people and more broadly and indeed specifically those of the Muslim faith. So what do we intend to do? Prevent them from taking children out of school, the children of the Republic.
Oh, do you notice how he's talking? He's saying that these Muslims are trying to brainwash their children. But aren't Christians doing the same thing? Like, all people of all religion teach their children about their religion. This is normal. He's saying that this is as if like it's something abnormal. Parents should have the right to teach their children about the religion they believe in. This is their right. You yourself said that you believe in religious freedom. Is this religious freedom? How is this religious freedom? You can't say you believe in religious freedom and then say, but I believe in religious freedom, but I'm not going to allow Muslims to teach Islam to their children. This is complete contradiction. Like, what the hell is this? Anyway, let's continue.
We also intend to put a stop to the financing linked to terrorists, which enables them to pursue their activities. So financial transparency, and above all, something which for me is essential in France, ensuring that everyone, irrespective of their faith or religion, fully observes the legislation of the French Republic. That is essential. So that is what we're doing. But I want to clearly distinguish between these extremists who act in the worst ways or who justify the worst actions in their very sophisticated and dangerous speeches from Muslims.
Exactly.
Because everywhere, throughout the Muslim...
And that's the thing. That's what I called out. Like, he's saying that, you know, free speech is allowed in French society as long as it's not Islam. Like, any type of free speech is allowed as long as it's not Islam, right? Right. Any type of free speech is allowed as long as it's against Islam, but not for Islam. So this is his position. This is literally his argument.
Muslim world, people have tried to merge these two groups by deforming my words, lying, maintaining that the president of France and therefore France has a problem with Islam. No,
France do
we
have
have no
problem
problem with Islam. None. Moreover, our history, both intellectually and culturally, is intimately linked to Islam. We were one of the first countries to translate the Quran, which has been taught at the Sorbonne in France since the 17th century, since when it has been the subject of controversy. We are one of the first countries to have opened a magnificent mosque, the Great Mosque of Paris, in the heart of our capital, and we have also challenged our religious representatives. The president of the Islamic faith in France, the rector of the Great Mosque, will tell you what I've just told you. So
Yeah,
the fight
sure.
we are engaged in is one which is essential for our generations. It's a struggle against terrorism, against violent extremism, and against all speech which justifies violence in the name of Islam. Our fight is in order to protect our fellow citizens, and indeed those citizens of all other countries in the world, whatever their religion, including Muslims.
L'islam, ce mot-là, vous l'avez...
Islam, that word that you uttered in your speech at Les Mureaux, and particularly in that sentence which has been spread about and published several times. Let me quote it. Islam is a religion that is currently going through a profound crisis throughout the entire world. Although that sentence was taken from a speech that went on for 70 minutes, people have focused on that one sentence, and many people have felt angry about it. What did you mean, President, by that sentence and by that diagnosis?
Ce que je viens d'évoquer,
What I said just now, and you are quite right when you say that it was taken out of context from a 70-minute speech. What I wanted to state clearly is that in today's world, there are individuals who, in the name of
Exactly.
this
Yeah, I
religion,
agree. Paul
deform it
Brother Paul smokes.
and, claiming that they are defending it, kill, assassinate, and slit throats, and whose discourse aims
Wait. Let's go back. Let's see what he says.
What I said just now, and you are quite right when you say that it was taken out of context from a 70-minute speech. What I wanted to state clearly is that in today's world, there are individuals who, in the name of this religion, deform it. And
Really? How are they deforming it? I mean, I'm not talking about terrorism, but teaching your children about your religion, how is that deforming the religion?
claiming that they are defending it, kill, assassinate, and slit throats, and whose discourse aims at justifying a kind of withdrawal of human groups from the rest of the world. There is a violence in the world today which is propagated by individuals, groups of extremists, in the name of Islam. And this is a problem for Islam, in as much as Muslims are the first victims. I've already mentioned the figures, more than 80%, and a problem for all of us. So all religions have been through this type of crisis.
So the crisis is not so much in the heart of Islam as in Muslim society, to be more accurate.
la crise, elle est au sein de nos sociétés.
The crisis is within our societies because everywhere we have individuals who, in the name of a religion, and most of the time not knowing much about it, although often in collusion with people who know more about it, commit the worst atrocities. terrorist attacks, acts of great violence, and engage in political projects which are completely contrary to our values and our ability to live together.
Okay. So, by the way, I am not talking about his war crimes yet because he's gonna say something incredibly stupid. I don't know if I missed it, but he talks about something about children. But I'm gonna get to that.
Together. Extremism merging with terrorism. These individuals are a danger for our societies. This danger is something we live with. Look at Tunisia, which experienced on its own.
By the way, here he's committing the fallacy of, a questionable cause fallacy. He's basically saying that, these Muslims are doing terrible things and they're doing it in the name of Islam. First of all, these Muslims, quote unquote, that they're, talking about, these people aren't just doing these things because of religion. Like there's a huge and complex issues that are associated with it. It's not just that they're angry at, because they believe in Islam so much that they're committing these crimes. These crimes happen in a very complex political scenario. Most of the countries that terrorist attacks take place in are countries that has been ravaged by war and that has been bombed by secular countries like France, like United States, like UK, etc., etc. Like NATO has completely destroyed the Middle East. This is not a controversial opinion. This is not something that I'm making up. They themselves admit this. So these terrorists that are coming up as a result of foreign policy of the West. This is their fault. This happened because of them. These terrorists, some of them were trained by people like Macron, trained by the CIA, trained by Al-Qaeda. Again, I'm doing this live. I can't exactly bring you guys the evidence or the references right now, but maybe I'll share them with you later. But some brothers said that I should probably start talking about the war crimes. I will, inshallah, but I want to finish this segment.
Soil the terrorist attacks perpetrated by the same terrorists at Labado. For decades now, Algeria has been experiencing terrible attacks by terrorists in the name of this religion. Afghanistan has been through it, and now it's the turn of the Sahel and Sub-Saharan.
Yeah, it's because of you guys.
And our societies are living through it too. We can't carry on as if nothing is happening. These people are not acting like this in the name of some other cause. So it is because of this that the present moment is so important. And that is why I wanted to address the issue, because I think it is absolutely essential for all of us that all the Muslims in the world are clear about the situation and that they come to the assistance of all those who want to fight against violence. Nothing justifies it. They must all come together behind the initiatives that we must take to combat not only the terrorists, but also those who expound ideologies that justify terrorism. For me, this is one of the key elements of the battle that we are waging against building up an ideology throughout the world, which, by deforming a religion, becomes an ideology of death. This is the extremism of Islam. This is what Al-Qaeda does. This is what Daesh does.
Ooh.
This is what the ISIS groups in the Sahara are doing, and there are several others. All of these terrorist groups also have behind them people who claim to be preachers, intellectuals, organizers within our societies, whose discourse is barely acceptable and who justify the recourse to violence. So we all need to have our red lines, and in particular to condemn loud and clear all violence, all red lines that are overstepped.
Okay, now I want you guys to listen to what he said, and I'm going to explain how much of a liar this guy is and how much of a hypocrite this guy is. I'm going to expose him completely here. Listen to what he said.
And there are several others. All of these terrorist groups also have behind them people who claim to be preachers, intellectuals, organizers within our societies, whose discourse is barely acceptable and who justify the recourse to violence. So we all need to have our red lines, and in particular to condemn loud and clear all violence.
Condemn loud and clear all violence. Okay, now let's take a look at the violence that the French army has committed in the Middle East. again, I'm going to end it here. But I'm going to show you guys a few articles that I found on French war crimes. By the way, these war crimes that I'm going to list and show are not like things like Algerian massacre or things like that. This is not from the past. This is from the present. This is happening right now. So let's take a look. So one of the main operations that the French government is doing in Middle East is known as Chamal. Hold on, let me. Okay, so let me share the screen. From tab, print over. Okay, share. Okay, so as you guys can see, there's a page. This is a Wikipedia page. So this Operation Chamal is a French military operation in Iraq and Syria in an attempt to contain the expansion of the Islamic State or ISIS and to support the Iraqi army. Now, this is one of the reasons why ISIS actually attacked France. France has did so many civilian destructions. They have destroyed thousands and killed hundreds of civilians in Iraq and Syria. When I first saw that ISIS attacked, France, I actually felt bad because I thought that they're attacking, but I didn't understand why they were attacking. Like, why did ISIS choose France over all the other countries? It's because France has been forefront in attacking civilians. Now, that's not to say that, ISIS is like some kind of angel, of course not. But the reason they attacked France particularly is because France has been very, very active in killing innocent civilians. Let me show you guys more reports from this. Hold on. Now, this is a page on the human rights group. Hold on, let me just share the screen with you guys. Okay. So as you guys can see, this is a page on the Human Rights Watch. So this is not like some Arabic source. This is a source. This is a Western source itself. And look at what they said. All feasible precautions. So basically, and remember, Macron came into power in 2017. He came into office in 2017. Here, let me show you guys. Hold on, let me show you guys. Here, if you see here, he assumed office in 14 May 2017, which means he was clearly involved in these attacks that took place in Syria and Iraq. So let's see what he did in Syria and Iraq. Okay, hold on, let me share the screen with you and bring up the Human Rights Watch page. Okay. Okay. Brothers, online Dunya says SC by ISIS also kill innocent people. Yes, of course. I don't disagree, by the way. I'm not like saying that ISIS is like some kind of innocent angel. Obviously, ISIS is a terrorist group. They're a Khariji group. They're killing innocent Muslims. But my point is that the French government has done equally awful things. And I'm going to expose this right now. I'm going to show this right now. Okay, so let's read this. So Let's read from the beginning. By the way, there's a video. Let me show you guys the video. Hold on.
In Syria, a US-led coalition has been attacking and bombing the Islamic State, moving towards Raqqa City, the de facto capital of ISIS. And there have been reports about significant civilian casualties from these airstrikes. We recently went to Syria to investigate.
By the way, the US-led coalition that they had that attacked Iraq and Syria, France was a huge part of that. And this happened at the time when Emmanuel Macron was the president of France. So this all happened under his watch. Again, listen to what he says, the Human Rights Watch person.
Investigate these allegations. And what we found was that in 2 of the deadliest attacks, there were indeed some ISIS members present, but there were also dozens, if not hundreds, of civilians there.
صارت الضربة يعني كنا نايمين يعني رجعت المدرسة يوم الضربة ثاني ضربة طلعت أمي ماتت يعني إخواتي كلهم ماتوا إخوال
هاي الوالدة وأبنائها وهذا قبر أبوهم هاي مجزرة 6 أشخاص.
Most of those who died were displaced from other parts of Syria. There are still no accurate lists and complete lists of all those who died. But according to locals, the number could be as high as 200.
200. By the way, the number is way higher than this. So Emmanuel Macron and his cronies and his friends killed 200 innocent people in just one attack in one area. But anyway, let's continue.
باقر شو يعني؟
حفار.
حفار.
ايه قال يا اخي 60 شخص دفنتهم بهالمكان هذا ولا حد صلى عليهم ولا حد ساعدني ولا شيء، جبتهم كومتهم ودفنتهم موجودين بالمقبره هاي 60 شخص.
Coalition forces have said that there is insufficient evidence to conclude that civilians were killed in the attack on the school. But as far as we know, they did not visit the school, they did not talk to any witnesses. If they had, they would have found plenty of evidence that civilians were killed.
By the way, Macron is complaining about Muslim terrorism. Then what the hell is this? How is this not terrorism? Like, they literally bombed a school. Like, even if this is the case that some ISIS fighters were there, could they not find any other way to attack the place other than a school?
In another attack, the coalition bombed a busy market in Topka town, killing at least 44 civilians, including 14 children.
The place was full of people. It was right after afternoon prayer. We know that there were some ISIS members around, but clearly this was a civilian market when it was at its peak activity, with queues of women, children, and men just going about their daily lives.
As the US and its allies continue to bomb ISIS-controlled territory, what they really need to do is to take a look at these attacks, find out what went wrong and what led to these civilian casualties, and make sure that that doesn't happen going forward. It should also look into providing either compensation or condolences payments to the victims of these strikes.
Okay, so this is a short video that I showed you guys. So let's read some of the details.
In Syria, a US-led
coalition. Okay, so basically the airstrike was done by CGTF. So in case you guys don't know, let me tell you what the CGTF is. So let's go down. Okay, so here we're gonna start reading from here. The Global Coalition to Defeat ISIS. So, and now the CGTF or the Global Coalition to Fight Against ISIS in Iraq and Syria was a coalition that was founded by, in September 2014, the US government announced the formation of the Global Coalition to Defeat ISIS, a coalition of 69 governments and 4 international institutions. In October, US Central Command established the Command Joint Task Force Operation Combined Joint Task Force. In short, it's CGTF. So, and these are the countries that at least, and this is the report says, at least 9 CGTF members have conducted airstrikes against ISIS in Syria. And these countries are United States, Australia, Bahrain, Canada, France, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and United Arab Emirates. So it's not just that Western countries bombed civilian targets. These are also Muslim countries. And one of these countries, Western countries, is, you guessed it, France. Now let's look at the civilian casualties. Okay. So let's take a look at the civilian casualties. Airstrikes in and around Tabqa increased significantly in the days just before and after March 22. Between March 19 and 23, the US-led coalition carried out 85 airstrikes in Raqqa area, compared to 45 strikes in the 5 days prior to the attack. Now, according to Air Wars, a UK-based non-government organization that compiles published information on civilian casualties in Iraq and Syria, the interest in airstrikes in March also resulted in a significant increase in civilian casualties. In April 13, Airways has documented 52 incidents causing civilians casualties in Syria in March, most of them around Raqqa, resulting in estimated 300 to 860 civilian deaths. 300 to 860 people killed. Now, I want you guys to think about this for a second. Macron and his allies killed over 320 to 860 people, innocent people, not fighters. And he's lecturing us and telling us that, Islam is the problem and that secularism doesn't kill anyone, have never killed anyone. Really? But the death toll is actually higher than this. Now, another report that says that there were more than 100 people killed in the recorded incidents. Now, here are some small details about the other places that they attacked. So this is an attack that happened in Badia school. This is a school that they attacked. And the amount of people that were killed, civilian casualties, are at least 40, including 16 children. 16 children. So they killed 16 children. Now a common objection would be that, hey, maybe, in war, people die. Maybe they didn't know that there were civilians there. Like, are you kidding me? Are you telling me that these people, this sophisticated military government, these superpowers who have nuclear weapons, who has, all these spies and the CIA and NSA, and they did not know that there were civilians in these areas? Like, are you kidding me? Of course they knew. They just didn't care. They didn't care. They wanted an easy target, and they did. And guess what? They knew that there were people there. They knew there were children there. They didn't care. And what's absolutely tragic is that the human rights page, they actually list the number of people that were killed. And if you see this number and the families that were killed, when I first read it, it actually brought tears in my eyes, because here, just read. And I'm not going to read the adults that were killed, because Macron was talking about how Muslims are indoctrinating, children. But let's see what Macron actually did. So let's say this is one of the victims that died, the family of Ibrahim al-Farhud. So this is one person that died, Ibrahim al-Farhud, male. He was at the age of 40. and then another, and his wife Halima al-Hamdi, wife of Ibrahim, and Ahmed. And this boy was 5 years old. 5-year-old. They killed a 5-year-old boy. A 5-year-old boy. I want you to think about that. They're lecturing us about terrorism, and they killed a 5-year-old boy. A 5-year-old boy. I have a cousin that's younger than that, about as younger than that. Another boy they killed was Ismaili, and he was 2-year-old. 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 They killed a 2-year-old boy. And again, there's no way they didn't know that there were civilians there. They knew full well. Another family of Ismail Ibrahim al-Farhud. Now this man was 35 years old, and he had a daughter, Allah, and she was 7 years old. And they killed a 7-year-old girl. They killed another girl who was 5-year-old. Malak, a girl, another girl that was bombed, and she was 3-year-old. And Adil, a boy, and this boy was only 2 months old. 2 months old. They killed a 2-month-old baby. And they're lecturing us about terrorism. Well, they're lecturing, they killed a 2-month-old boy. A 2-month-old boy. Another family, they killed a girl named Alia Aylan. She was under 10 years old age. Another girl named Lana. She was 8-year-old. Another, by the way, this is very hard for me to read, but I just want to show you guys why Macron should be in jail. Another kid that they killed was Mansour Ramadan, son of Idan and Zahra, and she was near 9-year-old. And Muhammad, son of Idan, Ila, he was 15-year-old teenager. Kafa, the daughter of Aliyah. And another boy that they killed was at the age of 5. His name was Muhammad Zain Zuhair. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun. They killed another boy, another girl at the age of 5. Her name was Hanin Muafiq al-Kazaz. May Allah grant her paradise. And another attack that they did was a market. It was a second neighborhood. The civilian casualties were 44 adults and 14 children. 14 children. They killed 14 children here. Again, here they have the list. If you go down, you can see that they had teenagers about the age of 13, 14-year-old teenagers, 12-year-old girls. They killed a 11-year-old boy. They killed a 6-year-old boy, a 12-year-old boy. This is another attack that they did. And again, they have the list. There's an attack. They attacked another house in April 25 to 26. They killed 16 people, including 5 women and 9 children. By the way, in Islam, killing women and children is not allowed. So let's see the list. Okay, so here, Halal Jassim, she was a 9-year-old girl, and they bombed her. Noor Mustafa Al-Jassim, she was a 7-year-old. Yeah, I should probably stop, but I just... And this is the... By the way, I actually read this list before, but this is the one that really got me, and I teared up when I read this. They killed a 6-month-old baby. Her name was Fadia Mustafa Al-Jassim. A 6-month-old baby. They killed a 6-month-old baby. Macron killed a 6-month-old baby. Macron and his friends. And he's lecturing us saying that he will not tolerate violence. A baby killer. A baby killer is telling us that he will not tolerate violence. A baby killer is telling us that. Another kid they killed was 5-year-old. Again, another attack on Palestinian street. They killed 18 people there, 3 women and 11 children. And again, there are kids here, 5 to 7-year-olds. 5 to 7-year-olds. Another attack here. This is in Masru, March 30, and they killed another 3-year-old girl, sorry, 3-year-old boy, and 3-month-year-old baby. Anyway, this is hard for me to read. Anyway, and they killed a boy about the age of 5, and yeah. So yeah, I think I'm gonna end the video here. This is actually, when I first read that, it made me sick to my stomach, and I just wanted to share that with you guys, that these people have no leg. These people are monsters, okay? These Macrons, these George W. Bush, they're monsters. There's no better than ISIS. They're not. They're not. These are baby killers. These are civilian murderers. These are killers of women and children. But yeah, they have no ground to talk about peace, no ground to talk about justice. They have no ground. But yeah, brother Muhammad Raina Reza is right. It's actually Fajr time here. I'm gonna pray now. Thank you guys for joining me. Inshallah, I'll post the video separately, and I'll post all the references I used for the video. Sorry if I got upset in the end, but this was really hard for me to read, especially the names of the victims, because you know, when you see all these attacks that happened, you never hear about the civilian casualties, and these casualties happened with the knowledge. They know full well that there are civilians there, but they don't care, and they need to be exposed for that. Emmanuel Macron belongs in a jail. He does. He shouldn't live in a free society. He should be in jail. And yet he's in a political position and he's lecturing Muslims. Anyway, I have to go now, guys. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to end this stream now. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.